you see record at the bottom?
Yeah. Okay, we're good now.
Okay. So, hello everybody.
Hi.
Let's just take a roll call really quick. So, Carla's here.
Chris is here.
Rachel's
Yes,
here.
yeah.
Oh, twinsies.
Sorry.
And we're missing Adam, which he did send us a message in our group meet that he was going to be around 5 minutes late, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So once he pops on, we'll let him acknowledge that he's here. With that being said, let's start with our joke of the day. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Yeah.
I did that one, Mia.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Oh, can I get a new
That's
one?
the only reason why I knew the answer.
There's a bunch of them that I'm like, did we cover these? Because all of the ones that I'm looking up there are so silly.
That's too funny. I was like, wait, I know the answer.
So I have one. Mine is, what did Snow White say when her photos weren't ready?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Sorry, y'all.
It's all good. What was yours again, Carla?
What did Snow White say when her photos weren't ready?
I don't know.
Say, my prince will come in.
Good one.
All right, I have one. Okay, so did you hear about the two thieves who stole a calendar?
No.
They each got 6 months.
How do monsters tell their fortunes?
How?
They read their horoscopes.
Good one.
Your turn, Adam.
Oh, man. Hold on. I got to look one up real quick. Like, real quick. Today has not been my day, y'all. You don't even want to know. Actually, this week has not been my week, but today especially has not been my day.
I feel like we've all had kind of a rough week.
I was going to say, I think it's not been none of our weeks this week.
Oh, man.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's
Today
right.
was not fun.
These next couple hours will be the best few hours of our week.
Oh, man. I'm looking forward to it so much now.
Did he go out? Did he go out?
Yeah.
So, Adam, while you look,
My meeting
why
already.
don't we go ahead and go and start talking about the feedback from our last meeting? And then when you get one, Adam, just let us know and we'll stop and let you tell your joke, okay?
All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
All right. So going over the feedback, one of the things that she talked about, which we had Maya make sure, is to ensure from now on our meetings that we have gallery. That way she can see each of us. She wants to make sure that we follow our agenda. How does everybody feel about that? So I'm going to try really hard to keep us focused today on the agenda and keep everything going in line so that we can get everything done on time. Was there anything else that she stated that anybody wants to talk about?
I thought we had done well the last meeting on the agenda, so that was a little weird to hear for me. But I mean, if there was something we missed, my bad, because I'm pretty sure that was my facilitating one. But I had it up and I thought I followed it. So sorry about that, guys. I didn't mean to get us docked or anything there.
I mean, I also had the agenda out as we were going through, and I was following it as well, and it seemed like you had gotten everything. Otherwise, I'm sure one of us would have spoken up.
Right.
Cool. So maybe we'll just keep an eye on it, continuing moving forward. Just take the feedback as it is, and
right.
But other than that, I don't think there is anything. I'm reading it now. That was anything else that I thought I wanted to discuss. So I'm good, personally.
Mia, is there anything you've seen?
No, I think you covered it. pretty much just, I thought all as well as that we followed the agenda pretty well last time. So maybe I'll just keep referring back to it too as well to make sure if there's anything that we might miss. But
Okay. So, Adam, are you ready yet? Oh, he's not on there. He's not ready yet. Okay. So, going through for the next one, we want to talk about what our readings were in the videos. Did everybody complete the readings and videos this week?
I did the videos, I did the chapter readings, and I got through one of the other articles that were listed there. So I made a pretty big dent, but I didn't get through all of it.
did any of you see the George Washington website, or was that missing from this one?
Yeah, I don't think that was on this one.
Thought that there was, but I'll be honest, I didn't go to it. It
I
was
can find it. I know it's in our discussion a little further in the agenda, but I was telling me earlier that only thing I did was go back to the prior one because there's all those tabs across the top, and I just went through the tabs to see if there was anything that kind of lined up with this week's readings, but I didn't see the link on there anywhere.
Gotcha.
so I just tried the link in our agenda that she sent us, and that works.
So it's in the agenda itself.
So if you go to the bottom of the agenda, like in point 11, it says here's the link. Click on it. It should work.
Okay. So that would be one I did not read.
Once we get to that point, we can also all go through it together a little bit because those are pretty easy to
Yes.
go through.
Sweet.
Okay. Do we have Adam with us yet? Yep. You're on mute. We can't hear you. Did you finish your readings this week, Adam?
So I read through them all, through both of them once, but not a second time. And it was like on Thursday. So I want to try to look at it again really quickly just to like get it back in my mind. But I did read both of them. I'm still trying to like get set up and get everything pulled up.
Okay, you're fine.
Working on it. Bear with me.
9 was really long.
9 was really long, yeah.
I'll be
I think
100.
it was the second quiz was really hard. The 13, I think it was really difficult for me.
I also want to say that we got an email saying that there was some errors in that quiz.
Yes. He's
Yeah.
going to adjustments to that one.
So
I don't even, in all transparency, I don't even read word for word that textbook. I just can't. I do a lot of like the slideshow and then I skim through a lot of the bullet points. Especially after she kind of gave that feedback of like, I'm glad you're not sticking to it. I was like, all right, cool. I'd rather read these articles that are a little more easier to read and I feel like I'm getting more from them than just this book that has term after term after term after term.
Very dry.
And then 500 more terms after that.
Yes. Definitely.
I'm like, Lord have mercy, I can't.
there was one thing in chapter 13 that I loved, and it's the first thing in this textbook that I liked. It was let me find it. Where are you? It was the chart with like all of the it was the like the position of countries on the power distance and individualism chart. And just because this topic has been covered in so many classes, that this was just a really clear chart to kind of show like where the world is on this scale. But yeah, that was my like favorite part of the reading.
Well, we're going to get to what we loved about the readings when we get a little further. So everybody, we pretty much said either we got 100% or we at least did the articles, the PowerPoint presentations, the videos, right? So we can knock that off. Now we're supposed to review the agenda, so make any needed changes, including any issues remaining from the previous meeting. I feel like we wrapped everything up last week. We made the adjustments to our charter, and I resubmitted that. I don't think we left anything hanging from last week, did we?
I don't think so.
Okay. And we're still all okay with the charter, correct?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good? All right. Team building activity. Who is going to do our team building activity?
Rachel.
Rachel, did you have something for us?
You know what? Is this the one where she was supposed to come in?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Team building activity. Okay, I can make one up on the spot. If you were a dog, what dog would you be?
Ooh.
If I was a dog, after having a Yorkie, I think I would be a Yorkie for sure.
Why?
They're
Could you
just
spoil your dog?
Yeah, he's a prince for sure. But he just has so much personality. It's absurd. It's like having a child. I mean, literally.
I would want to be one of my dogs. She's a beagle mix. She's like 20 pounds, super small, but she's got enough energy to feed the whole entire world. And I just need a little piece of that energy to get me through the day. So I'm trying to figure out how to harness her energy and then absorb some of it because she is just nonstop forever.
That's wild.
She's crazy.
For me, I would be a corgi because I have big ears, a big butt, and little legs.
Have you guys seen the Corgi Maze Challenge?
No.
You have to look it up on YouTube. There's like a challenge where people try to make their corgis navigate through very like unique mazes through their house and stuff.
That's awesome.
How about you, Mia?
I will be. Well, I have a Rottweiler, so I'll be my Rottweiler because he's just so goofy. It's weird to think that, everyone kind of has that idea that Rottweilers are mean, but my Rottweiler is really protective, and I think that's how I am as a person. If I get to know somebody, I'm really protective of them.
I would have to be a Dashed Hound. So I've had several different kinds of dogs. I've had a Saint Bernard. I've had actually a red bone hound dog. I've had, a Yorkie, a poodle, a cockapoo. But my wiener dog, I have a long-haired one, and he is just so loving, and all he does is lay around and sleep all day. And that's what I want to do. If I get reincarnated, lay around and sleep all day,
Yes.
I would do that.
Side note, if I couldn't be a dog, I'd want to be a cat because they literally do nothing. And that's my life goal. So.
Answer, yeah.
I like that one, Rachel. Thank you for that.
All right.
So we're going to talk about our readings and videos now. So now we can get into what we learned from the readings. We'll start with the readings first. How about that? We'll start with our questions. So what concepts were most meaningful to you with the readings?
I really, so this has come up in another course before, but in chapter 9 talking about brainstorming, I thought that was I really learned something from the slides on that one because they were just, I don't want to say dummy down, but it took away a lot of the excess stuff. And then the different types of brainstorming and then, throwing out as many ideas as possible, and not letting like group think and all those, things tying into it. So brainstorming was one for me because, at work a lot is brainstorming on how you can improve, how can you be better, what can change, how do we drive results? So that was a nice learning to me to kind of bring into that my team of like getting every single idea out there. Nothing's ever dumb, nothing's ever too crazy or radical, and then filtering through it from there.
I like the part about the cultural intelligence. I did a lot of studying, reading over the last probably year and a half over emotional intelligence and hadn't even really thought about the cultural intelligence part of that. And very eye-opening. I could see like in my store, it's a very diverse store, how having that cultural intelligence could be a key part to keeping conflict out of the store and keeping the team working together. And I want to take some of the concepts they had in it to my Shifts What Possible huddle this week so that we can bring it up and be able to tap in on the different cultures and the diversity within the team. So I like that part.
Yeah, I like that part as well. Like I said before, I was living overseas, and like sometimes I would be in a team of 15 people, and every single person was from a different country and a different religion, and just like had so much to bring. So I think that like as an individual, I've grown so much just from being a part of those teams, having those people as my leaders, leading those people, realizing how I have to like change different cultures and acknowledging different things. So like that is something I really like. I would have to say that like in my workplace, I don't think that we're as diverse as we should be. Like Seattle is like pretty diverse place, but I feel like it's very like my store is very black and white, gay and straight. And that's the diversity that we have, which is diverse, and you can get a lot from that. But I just want like after being in a more diverse environment, I like crave that because you can grow so much from the different diversity.
Yeah. So I think the two things that I thought were really cool from chapter 9 specifically, one was kind of going off of the brainstorming thing as well. I thought I liked how it talked about spurring ideas by giving yourself a break or going over like some different approaches towards brainstorming and how to get the best ideas from it. And then two, another one that I liked was the cognitive realism part of it. So for me, I'm a very realistic person. And when we're brainstorming at work or trying to think of ideas of any processes that we can implement, I'm super down to the core of like what's realistic and what can actually work. And so I think for me, that sort of triggered something in my brain because that's how I operate.
For me, I liked in chapter 9 how it talked about like fluency, flexibility, and originality, how they have like kind of a point system where you can't have necessarily like the more fluency and flexibility you have, like originality will kind of follow with it. I like that part. But what I found weird is that like in chapter 9, how it kept talking about teams aren't necessarily that creative. And I always kind of thought that the more teams that you have, the more creativity that you would see. So I thought that was kind of contradicting from what I've expected, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too. I think my brain went that same direction.
The brainstorming and the speed storming and all that was something that I had addressed before in my communications class that I had. And we all had to get together like this and just take like 5 minutes and just, we picked a topic and then everybody wrote something down on Google Docs. And then it was just like kind of all over the place. But to find out that there was a lot of things we all thought very similar. You could see the diversity when it was like somebody my age versus somebody younger, or somebody from the north versus somebody from the south, how the thoughts and stuff were completely different but very similar. So I love the fact that being able to brainstorm like that. And we might have to give that a try if we get ready to do our interview questions. We can all do that. All right. So the next question is, did the reading reinforce or contradict what you had already knew about teamwork?
I think for me, it reinforced a little bit of what I already knew in regards to, sorry, I got a puppy trying to invade my space. In regards to one thing, like in chapter 13, it talked about the iceberg model. And I think that it just made, I guess it makes sense, but like you think about when you experience someone from a different culture, like you might get a brief taste of the different culture just from talking to them, but you really don't see the full scope of their different values, superstitions, belief. And I think it's so hard for us to really understand on a deeper level different things in different cultures to that extent, you know. And I wish that it were kind of easier for us to get a taste of other cultures. You little fucker.
I agree. Like for me specifically, like that iceberg kind of hit home just because I moved my best friend in with my dad to live, and my dad is super traditional. Like he expects kind of the women to do like the chore work and stuff, whereas my friend, she's very like she grew up in a household for both parents to help with the chore work and stuff, and so I think that kind of also hit home. Like she didn't understand moving in with him how big of a culture shock it would be or how different it is, because all she saw was just kind of like me and him, we have like a certain respect level, and she didn't really understand like, well, that's because it's our culture and we have more like I have to show more respect to him versus like I do the dishwork and dishes and stuff like that too. I don't know if that makes sense.
So I guess for me, I don't know why I'm having such a tough time with this one. I guess I can relate it back to my brainstorming one, because I really did enjoy reading about that one. I would guess before that, I would think that, you know, keeping the ideas as slimmed down as possible for choice picking, to not have too much coming in at once. So I guess that did contradict kind of what I originally thought of, like maybe getting a few ideas from people who are more well adjusted to the work or the project that's being done. But really, you know, now opening it up to other people because you can get more ideas and answers that might not be correct, but can help kind of spin other ideas and create conversation within the group.
Yeah, I agree. I would think that like not having so many ideas would be easier, but I guess that's not the point, right? Like it's about getting the very best out of it, and you can't get the best if like everyone doesn't put in the effort and the brainstorming. I thought it was interesting that like, and we were kind of talking about this before we started recording, was that like, Mia, you feel shy sometimes, but like that people they feel shy, and then like they might have some like really great ideas and they don't come out because they're scared of maybe like what the other members of the group will think. And I can definitely relate to that. Like sometimes I just think my idea is going to be silly, so I just don't say anything, and then that ultimately is just hurting the group.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes my problem is I get too like self-conscious about my ideas, and I think, oh, that's a stupid idea, or maybe I can't articulate it out correctly, and so I'm just gonna wait. And I think that when they talked about like in chapter 9 with like the brain writing, that kind of helped because it had like the portion about like there was what is the word I'm thinking of?
Ambiguity.
Yeah, there you go. Like you can write your ideas and kind of do like the Red Robin, like they were saying, which I think if, you know, when I get into like a leadership role, that will help as well with like the people that aren't comfortable. Like for me, I know that it's going to take practice for me to get to that point, and that's how I can kind of engage others to do the same, that we're going through the same issue.
So that used to be the same thing that I had. I would always sit back because I was afraid what I was going to input would not either make sense or would not be important enough. And I had a leader once tell me that don't be the last to speak, because by the time you speak, everybody has said what you've had to say. And now you got to think of something else to say. And there's never, ever one wrong answer. There's always questions that are never asked that are wrong. So remember that. Always just put it out there. Don't challenge yourself to be the first to always say something, because then you're going to get comfortable doing it. But then it allows you to get your voice heard. So that's with this whole, you know, everybody, I was reading just a minute ago. So the expressiveness, the non-evaluation, the quantity in the building, that's what it's all about. So just making sure as a group that we are expressing our ideas. And not being the last, so that you always have something very important to say. And so I'm going to challenge you the rest of this class. Be out there, be the first. All right, so next question. What questions did they raise for you? So did you have any questions? Did it bring across anything that you were unsure of within the readings?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I brought up. I might have to probably look at things again and see if I come across anything.
Personally, I don't think I have any questions.
Yeah, the readings were pretty straightforward to me this week. It was good. Like, yeah, they were pretty straightforward.
I had to go over the brainstorm writing and the speed writing a couple of times because I would never, like I said, I'd never heard of the speed storming before, and I wasn't quite sure what that was going to be. In the reading itself, it wasn't as detailed as what I thought to understand, but in the slides, it was a little bit more information that was easy to digest. So, all right. Remember that it is meant for us to discuss. So we've discussed, we did good. So in chapter 9, what ways do you think this team has enhanced the creativity of the team members? And in what ways do you think it has interfered with our creativity? So if we think about chapter 9,
Oh man.
I think it's helped us with our creativity.
We've been open to hearing everybody's
Ideas.
yeah, and people taking turns and doing their best to respect each other.
I think one of the good things that we did, like for the last meeting, is Adam does really well with like asking probing questions to help start the conversation. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think like, and same too, like things you guys say, you know, when you talk about something you read and how it impacted you, it sort of makes me look at it differently too, because we all have our own mindset, our own ideas we've generated from reading something. And then when someone else brings up a different perspective, you're like, oh man, interesting. And you can kind of take a different approach to it too, and maybe understand it differently. That's definitely happened for me with things that you guys have said when I've read something again.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest piece is you know, something you don't generally get out of like a plain discussion board is the actual depth of the conversation and learning your guys' experience and how you've implemented terms and just, you know, reinforcing the learning in several different ways instead of just one plain definition.
Yeah, totally.
So I look at it in a way that comes in, and because they're not doing the same thing over and over again, they get a whole different spin on things. So taking the input that you guys are putting in from what you read and what you're taking out of it has really helped me to understand and help build my creativity and the learning of this. I don't think there's been anything other than we've all agreed that's interfered with us is that the reading itself is kind of dry, that it makes it a little harder on us to learn some things. But I think that we have all really put.
And I think we're all getting it too. Like, even though the reading is kind of tough to get through sometimes, maybe hard to understand, I think that just from the conversations we've had, we're all understanding the material really well, which is big for me because sometimes you go through a class and you'll be at the end and you're like, I have no idea what I just learned. Like, that was way too complicated or complex. And I think everybody seems to relate well. And I'm stoked on watching everybody develop so far, at least. Yeah.
I think this visual and meeting and being as a team has really helped with that. I think if we'd had this class without having this group and doing the readings and all the assignments, I don't think we would have got as much out of it.
Oh, for sure. Agree.
All right, chapter 13 in the articles, what are some of the issues of privilege that can affect how
Sorry.
Oh, it's the privileges part of it, yeah. Huh.
I know that in one of the TED Talks that we had, one of the major quotes that stuck out to me was that it says privilege is invisible to those who have it. So I think that's also kind of in place into chapter 13. If you don't understand that you have privilege, or you don't see other kind of aspects when you're not going through it because you're not used to it.
Yeah, for sure. One of the, to piggyback off that, you have I think it was probably the same TED Talk where he's talking about, the white male privilege and going through all that. So I really enjoyed his TED Talk. One, it was funny, so easy to engage with because he had a good sense of humor. But also just, a white man standing there being able to talk about his privilege, it just helps you kind of think about yourself and what privileges you've had and how that affects how you see other people or yourself. Have you been blind to it? Have I been blind to it? So that was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. So I didn't finish the TED Talk. I started that TED Talk, but I didn't watch all the way through. But I had taken another class last semester about diversity, and it's the first time that I ever learned about white privilege. And I guess you can say I was definitely blind to it or never thought about it before. I don't know. It's something that you don't think that you take advantage of, or you don't really think that you utilize, but you are, whether you know it or not. And so my wife's Hispanic, and she's in business, and I love that about her because she's sort of breaking boundaries, being a Latina woman in business as a woman in both Latina and all of our friends are Hispanic. And yeah, I don't know, that's been a big thing for me over the last couple of years is just learning. I don't know. Yeah, it's a sensitive topic for sure, but I think that we don't discuss it enough in today's culture because everyone's so worried about it. And I think it should be something that we discuss and we're all aware of,
I
Yeah.
wanted my husband to see that video or TED Talk. I was like, he needs to watch this for sure.
Hold him down.
Yes.
For the chores.
Yes.
I think with privilege, I had also kind of an aha moment a couple of years ago in a class when I was reading an article about the privilege between the privilege that a white woman has over, say, a black woman. And it's kind of even if the white woman has a way worse life than the black woman, there's still that one factor that gives privilege to the white woman. And it was just the way that the article described all of it that it was oh my God. And then that's kind of when I recognized wow, I do have that privilege, and you can do your best to understand it, but there's you'll never know how it is to be somebody else,
One of those situations that no matter how hard we try to be in their shoes, we never can. So we're never going to be 100% able to say, I understand.
But trying is such a big, trying to understand and listening and just seeing where people come from and not talking but just absorbing everything is just that's really the best you can do. And you can grow so much as an individual from doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important to be conscious, right? And then two, call other people out on it as well. If you hear something insensitive or if you hear something insensitive, don't be afraid to tell a family member hey, what you're saying is not cool, and to them it may not be something crazy, but it's just having that sensitivity and just recognizing we need to make a change kind of one by one, and we can all spread positivity that way. Oh, my puppy's upset that I'm ignoring. He's mad at y'all. He's pouting.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to add about the privilege? All right. So let's talk about the articles. What are some of the strategies that leaders can use to enhance the diversity of their teams?
Oh, man. me see.
I can tell you on my part, living down in the South, just 10 miles from Mobile, that is one of the things that I am very prideful about. I don't look for a typical type of person. I'm a very diverse. I want different cultures. I want different beliefs. I want different races. I want different genders because those are my customers. And if I have a diverse team, then my customers are going to feel more comfortable as well. So when I do any kind of searching for hiring, it's a very diverse, having conversations, where you're from, what kind of family background do you have? Those are a few little extra questions I ask to find out. And I have probably one of the most diverse teams, which is kind of funny. Being where I'm at, you would think that all the stores are diverse like that, but they're not. But it does make my life a lot easier because we all learn from each other from it. And like I said, the customers. So we have I'm a travel store. So I have so many different customers that come in and out of my store, and they each can find somebody they can connect with a lot easier.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, the one article of why diverse teams are smarter is exactly for that reason. We've all, different cultures and races and everything bring different qualities to the team that another might not. And when we all can learn from each other, from our experiences or our upbringing or our background, I find that really interesting. And everything you said, Carla, is amazing. I think it opens doors for us to grow. I've had so many of my employees teach me things that I probably never would have known before, just from, how they were raised or their culture and all that stuff. And it's really awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's awesome that, Carla, you have, I think the book calls it cultural metacognition, but it's like that cultural intelligence. God dang it, buddy. Ugh. But it takes a leader to emphasize that spread of cultural awareness, having the awareness of what you're doing is the first step in making a huge change like you are. And that's awesome. I mean, I love it. That's great.
I will have to say that I took my final step. I think I have hired about anybody you could possibly think of. And in the last week, I have hired my first transgender. And I have to consciously think. I mean, it's something very different. Like it says in the article, it's easy to go normal and not be diverse. It's harder to be diverse because you are constantly having to think before you speak. Think before you address issues, because what my beliefs are is not their beliefs. So I have to stay on top of my toes. But I think, again, that's one of the reasons that I have grown as a leader, is because I've challenged myself to do that. But it's a lot easier not to even think about it. But that's not fair. I mean, you don't need to take the easy way all the time.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really lucky. My company has a zero tolerance policy for any sort of negative attitudes towards diversity and inclusion. And so we have awesome panels every year where for certain months, they'll do a panel with someone talking about diversity, someone talking about inclusion. And it's just rad to be in a company that pushes that in the right direction. And then you learn, how to approach different situations. And then because we're a global organization, I've met people from all over the world, whether it be through phone calls or through video meetings. Our tech support is out of Manila in India. And so whenever you have to call them for an issue, the way you communicate with them is so different. And yeah, you just grow and learn, and it's rad. That's awesome.
I think that's cool. Carla, I think that's with the transgender partner, that's probably one of the biggest adaptations you have to make, because it goes against your mentality through that you've had, and you want to include the person, but just you go you'll say he instead of she, or she instead of he, and that's just something that you have to kind of push yourself, which is great for getting out of your comfort zone and just making sure that you're staying sharp and staying I don't even know the word.
I have to tell you, the first day it was crazy because he's sitting there, and of course his application says Abigail, and I'm talking on the phone to PRC, which is our help desk, because go through, and of course they don't know, and they see Abigail, so they're saying she, so I'm saying she, and then it gets to the one question that I have to ask, and then this light bulb goes off in my head. Oh my gosh, I've been calling him she, and I know he wants to be Bryce. I've got to be a little bit more conscious of what I'm saying, even though what I see. And I had to apologize 50 million times, and he just kind of laughed at me. He's like, it's okay, it's okay. I was like, no, it's not, because it's not okay. This is what I need to do. So, but yeah, it's challenging, but I'm all for it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, for real.
I think in on chapter 13, they had a good section about that too, like where they talked about like planning awareness, checking, it's like cultural general knowledge and stuff too. That helps, and especially with the awareness, like you were saying, you were really aware of trying to make sure that you were including he instead of she.
Sorry, guys, I've lived a lot longer. I have a lot more to add. All right, so TED videos. I know we talked a little bit of it just a little while ago, but once again, we're going to talk about what are the main lessons that we take away from the TED videos.
Yeah, so, going back to the why gender equality is good, biggest takeaway is just, for me, I think it would be important for everyone to recognize their privilege and where they stand, where they are, because the more we can recognize it and be aware of it, the better we can understand how that can affect the people around us, and how we interact with them.
Go for it.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, it was interesting for the statistics on the gender equality one, how they were saying that there's more, if it's gender neutral for like chores and such, like you'll have a positive, what do you say, positive, like experience.
Better relationship, you'll be happier. Basically, everyone's happier.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I didn't get to watch either of them in full, so I don't want to say anything because I don't feel like I have anything to add to the TED videos.
They're good. You gotta watch them.
Yeah, I'm going to after this, now that I got some time tonight.
Rachel, how about you?
Well, I like the second one a little bit, like, just because I like the way that he talked about, like, at the beginning of it, the language from New Zealand, where like the land and womb are the same word. I just think it's like, it just identified like how language and the way that we like approach things in culture can be so different, and that's how like we change, like, where was I getting at? Sorry, I was a little unfocused. That's how like what do I want to say? That's just how we view the world, and I like that he identified that we're all going to look at it differently. I think it's cool, like when he was talking about like also the kindergarten, my nieces, like one of my nieces right now is in a school where she there's no like majority, so there's like a third white, a third African, and a third Asian, like East Asian. And so it's like very like my niece is getting that very cultural like diversity that's necessary at a young age to grow and develop, and that I didn't necessarily get when I was younger. And that had I gotten that, maybe I would have been open-minded earlier in life and developed in a different way.
I agree. That was one of the things I brought out of it as well. I come from a very small town that, I kid you not, probably 75% of the people who live in the town was related to me. It was not a diverse town whatsoever. There was no African Americans whatsoever. It was all white country folks. So when I moved from there to Tennessee, that was very different for me to be in a school that, I'm now probably the minority versus all the other different kind of cultures in there. It would have been totally different for me if I had been raised somewhere like that. I mean, it took me a while to understand and get used to different beliefs and different races and what they, how they think and everything. So yeah, I love that part of it.
And what's kind of cool is like my nieces, because they live in St. Paul, Minnesota, and there's like, it's not just an African American population, it's like African. Like everybody is either first generation or they've immigrated to the US. So they still have that very strong cultural tie to their home. And so when it comes to birthday parties and stuff like that, they really get exposed to the different culture that hasn't been kind of like tainted by like the mixture of like that with the American culture, which is cool.
Oh,
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so like commenting on that too. So I'm from Minnesota originally. I mean, I moved to Texas when I was 12, I think. So I've been here for a long time. But before I came to Texas, I realized too, like in Minnesota, it's not just an African American population. It's like a truly African
Area.
people. I don't know if I forget if they're like Ethiopian or what they are, but like it's different than your standard African American culture.
Yeah.
And so it's wild to see that in different places,
Yeah. And so like by my brother, it's a lot of Somali,
Yeah.
but from all over, but it's still like from different parts of Africa. And then here in Seattle, we have such a high like Ethiopian and Eritrean population that like just at work, like my regulars, like I can gain so much from them. So yeah.
I like that part of the video too, because like the portion about how it was saying that their culture is kind of going away. Like after there's like 7,000 different languages, and then I don't know how long they said, but it was going to be cut down by half. And like for me, like my dad, he grew up in like a really small island, and then he came and he moved here when he was 19. But he never really told me like the language or anything. So like my children, when I have children, they won't be able to know like our language at all. Like I won't be able to speak it to them.
Well, I think it's crazy when you think about the impact English has and like how odd it is that you can go to almost any country and someone speaks English or most people know English, but if they come here, we don't know their language a majority of the time, Like we went to Italy on our honeymoon in October, and almost everywhere we went, somebody knew English, or most people knew like perfect English to help you with anything that you needed. And it was weird. I think that we're definitely falling behind in the US on terms of other languages in certain places, myself included. Like I just know English and that's it.
Yeah. Where my dad's from, their high school, one of the high schools that they have requires you to know English. You can't speak anything but English in that actual high school.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's wild.
All right. So George Washington website. So I know I said I didn't see the link, so I didn't even look at that, which Rachel showed us and told us where it was located. So I'll have to go back to that. Did anybody else?
Is it the Team Effectiveness link on the agenda that she sent us?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at it right now then.
Rachel, you want to share some of it that you got from it?
Honestly, I found the link like as I was looking through the agenda right before we started the meeting. So I've just browsed it. And I'm looking at it right now as well.
It's kind of a lot to go over really quickly.
Yeah, it is.
So we'll just make a commitment maybe that next week, this is one issue that we come back with and talk about what we took from it.
For sure.
That
Okay.
I
totally
think that's
works,
good.
yeah.
Then try no.
Do we need to make any changes to our charter? That would be our next thing. Now that we've covered diversity and creativity.
I had a question. So on the videos that I watched, they had talked about having a challenger, and I wasn't sure, like I think they included it in their actual charters. So was I missing they had a challenger role?
Oh yeah, the one that we did when we watched Team 7, right?
Yes.
And it was
Yeah.
more or less like the devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I was kind of confused because, well, that one, I watched Team 5 and Team 7 because on the actual extra credit section, she had two, but Carla explained it to me that Team 5 was going to watch us, and then we were supposed to watch Team 7. So I watched two of them, and both of them talked about a challenger role.
Okay.
I think that was one of the things we missed on the agenda, that when we discussed in the chapter about the devil's advocate, so we could come up with somebody who's going to keep pushing us and challenging us to think differently and the flip side of things. So I don't know if that's something we want to add to our charter then. Have somebody that can do that.
Do we think we need that? Is that something we want to add, or I don't want to just add it because they did?
Honestly,
You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to add it.
do that. I think that we have enough of us that are strong enough that actually challenging has the flip side to say.
Yeah. I think we're very open, and if one of us has the other side to say, then we'll say it.
So I'm good with that if y'all are.
I agree. Yeah, I think
I'm
we all
good
do a
too.
good job of talking about things openly.
And I know in part of Team Sevens, that they were going to have the one person, but then they all were asking, should we rotate it? And then it was like, well, why don't we all just do it? So I think we already do that. So I think that's
Agreed.
Right.
all right. So do we have any other thoughts or comments on our discussion points this week?
I don't.
I got nothing.
No.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Chenley?
Not me.
All right. So how does everybody feel this meeting went this week?
Good. I think it was
Yeah, I think it
smooth.
went
We
well.
stayed on track. We discussed the material and went back and forth with each other.
I think with the load we had, there was a lot of good discussion that took place, and we all can walk away with something different this time.
Mhm.
Also, I appreciate it because it sounds like all of us had kind of like a rough week, and this definitely rounded out the content for this week when I might have been focused on other things outside of school. So yeah, definitely, I thought it was a good meeting.
So one of the things that is listed on here was for us to look at George Washington's website and think of questions that they have on there to assess our team and our discussion. So maybe the next meeting we have next week, we all prepare to have something to discuss from that under team effectiveness. Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just looking at that now, not to go off topic. I mean, so one of the benefits, each team member has ample opportunity to express their ideas, and I just want to call out that I think we all do a really good job at taking our turns and letting people finish completely what they're saying, and I think that's really important. So, thanks everyone.
Yeah, totally. Go get it.
So I know our next meeting is going to take place like in the next, going to take like a 5-minute break before we start. Give everybody 5-10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to change for that meeting before we start?
Sorry, hold on.
I think am I the submitter this week? I did not write down does anybody have the?
I think it was you. Yes.
I can submit them if you want, just because I know that there's going to be 3 different ones. I don't know.
Well, you have to submit, the host has to submit the videos, but Rachel will have to submit
The chart.
questions and that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So Adam, I am terrible with technology. So it's just the Google Doc.
Yeah, it's up. I've already started some questions on there to get us going.
Beautiful. I got it. Cool.
You got the invite that I sent you for the other email?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. We're supposed to review instructions for the next meeting to make sure it's set up. So date and time is today, 10 minutes from the time we end this one. Sound good?
Yeah, that works.
All right. And that is it until we start our next meeting, because at the end of the next meeting, we will discuss who's going to be in what roles. So
That sounds good. Yeah.
take a 10 and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes.
Sounds
sweet.
good.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you in a bit.